Okay.
We visited a friend who was doing his PhD there, and I think I was like 16 or 17 years old, and I told myself, I'm coming to York. I just so happened that was the case, by the grace of God, and I'm grateful for that. And I chose psychology because for a slightly, I guess you could say an immature reason, but hey, take it as you will. In high school, we were given access to this database that allows you to see a list of careers, what path of study you need to take to get there, how much money they made, and what kind of environment they work in. My concern as a teenager at the time, I only looked at the money.
The money.
I honestly, that's all I did. I'm not gonna lie to you. I went down the column, and my criteria was not a lot of mathematics, not too much science. Science I'm okay with, but of course that didn't require a lot of mathematics, but I ranked really high on the income.
Okay.
And I arrived at the profession, industrial organizational psychologist.
Okay.
And at the time I saw they were making well into $150,000 or whatever a month.
Canadian dollars.
Right, Canadian dollars, exactly. So I was like, that's for me. We're gonna go for that one. But of course, obviously, as you take steps, you become mature. And in having taken that step, to pursue that course of action, it had led me to not only better understand human psychology. I am by no means an expert, but it has also helped me to better understand myself. But in having taken that course of study, although I have graduated, it has taken me to a different path. I realized that, yes, money is important, but it's not everything. Because if you don't serve people genuinely, you're not going to have the money anyways. But if you chase the money and not the service, you end up losing both.
Yep.
And what that made me, it had inspired me to become a bit more mature. So although I have taken a path to become an entrepreneur, to answer your question, how has this helped me? It didn't help me to, or should I say, it didn't inspire me to continue down the path that I've chosen, become an industrial organizational psychologist. The reward didn't really inspire me to keep going in the required work ethic. Because you have to go on, get your doctorate, get your master's, doctorate, and so on, to be really experienced. And I found that you have to love it to do well in it. And I didn't, to be honest. I didn't love it as much. I did not pursue that path. But I was quick to realize in about a year or two before I got my second year that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And in being an entrepreneur, I love anything to do with inspiration. So I started out to collect inspirational quotes where I would post a quote on Facebook. I used to call it Yahaya's quote of the day. And I would post a quote and I would just tell people, this inspired me. And then I set the goal in 2009 that I wanted to write a book as a way to inspire 1 million people. And that set me on the trajectory.
Wow. So from the desire to inspire 1 million people, you've now graduated to now say, I want to inspire 100 million people to be able to achieve. And somebody is asking, Dr. Bassi is asking, greatness comes from service. How do you intend to impact on the youth who need this type of inspiration?
In terms of the youth, on a basic level, it's something that I intend to do first by my own example.
Okay.
And by my own work ethic. Because I have found that in having looked up to other people, I wasn't gravitated towards what they told me to do. In as much as that was the case, of course, but I was gravitating more strongly towards what they were doing themselves. And I was gravitating towards what they were doing themselves and the kind of results that they were achieving in their lives. And inevitably, I would see somebody and say, I want to be like that person. I want to be like that person. Like, for example, there's a gentleman that lives not too far from me. He's the first Nigerian, from what I know, to have his company publicly listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange. And he has a company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange.
Interesting.
I was just on the phone with him, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and I was so inspired that he voice note. I was researching his company, and I sent him a voice note just saying, I'm praying for your company and whatnot. They're waiting for something to move on in their company, move up the level. And then the guy called me, and he was telling me how the things that I'm doing right now, for example, the way I'm dreaming, the things I'm doing, he used to do, and he is very, very successful in impacting and making an impact in people's lives.
Interesting.
And I'm like, wow, so you're a testament for the person that I want to become.
Correct.
And in my own way. So to answer your question, to inspire the youth, the best way to do that is by example.
Example.
And the way that I'm doing that is to continue to make an impact and continue to stay focused on my own ambition. And inevitably through the reading of my book. Because I strongly believe, based on everybody else who has read my book to date, and the book is inspirational.
Yep.
Not because I'm saying it is, it's inspirational by the way that the story is. It offers a mirroring effect for people to see themselves in what they're reading. And the image that bounces back encourages. And I'm still learning, and whenever the opportunity comes, I do speak, but it's something that I'm focusing to do more and more of.
More and more.
And I'm still finding my path, to be honest. Yeah. I'm still green, and I'm still growing.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Thank you for that. To inspire other people or the youth in particular is to be an example. Is to just live out and achieve. So, somebody says, so 47,000 books sold, so you are rich.
Well, by the grace of God, but it's not easy, to be honest, because...
Now, while you are answering that question, take us through the process, because there's a process. Right. Of like that man that you met, people always see the end. They don't see the process.
Exactly.
So please take us through the process. Maybe it will help, inspire some people to know that there's a process. Take us through the process. Why you talking about you are rich? Take us through the process.
Okay. If you would actually give me about 40 seconds.
Go ahead.
Go and 2 seconds.
Go ahead. Get it. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight it's been wonderful. Mr. Yaya Barua has been unpacking to us how he has come to be where he is today, selling 47,000 books, and how he is continued to be, even though he studied organizational psychology, and how that has helped him even to now be an entrepreneur, who he is and what he does and still hopes to do. Now he is back. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna move this.
Okay, great.
So you can see me clear, because the glare is gonna block the way.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm really, really happy that you mentioned
the process.
Because that's something that is often overlooked, and people, a lot of people just see the end result, but never. And obviously, it's nobody's fault. It's just how it is. You don't look at the sea. You never think about the sea underneath the ground, buried. But you only look at the tree in admiration, saying, "Wow, this is a beautiful tree." But you don't acknowledge the bottom.
The bottom.
Process,
yep.
The time that it couldn't have come out. So the reason I wanted to show you this. So whenever I write my book, I always write my book longhand.
Longhand.
I never type my book at the beginning. So all of this right here are my manuscripts for my first book,
wow.
my second book, my third book. So to prove that, I was in York University when I was writing my book, this is one of my notebooks from my classes. And this is an African study class, actually, African study course, Introduction to African Studies. And this is, after the class was done, I used the notebook
to as a manuscript.
To write my first book.
Interesting.
And this is just one of the books that I used to write my first book. And then again, this is the manuscript for my first book. For my second book, this is the manuscript. And see right here?
Yep.
Tunde, A Man of Lost Ambition.
Yeah.
My goal was to write 200 pages. And I set for myself a goal to write 30 pages in only, to write the entire book in only 30 days. And, okay, so my plan was to write the book in only 30 days. And where is the date here? See that right here?
Yeah.
You can't see it properly, but this was it. At the top, you can see the date, March 22nd, 2013.
Yeah.
And that was when I started. And my goal was to buy myself this headphone. I drew it. I'm a terrible artist, but I drew it there to give myself a perspective. So my goal was to write my book in 30 days. 10 pages a day for 30 days. And obviously, give or take, I would at least have 200 pages. That was the written raw manuscript. I had a lot more than that, but 10 pages for 30 days. And that in itself, I just focused on writing every single day. And whenever I didn't meet 10 pages, I would catch up the next day, even if it meant sitting an extra 3-4 hours and giving up so much time, hanging out with friends and whatnot, and just to get the book done. And I was able to finish the book completely. And I ended up publishing that book. And my third book in 2017, I wrote, and I'll give you a very, very quick illustration to see. You see how big the font is for my second book and how spaced out everything was? For my second book, I'll show you. And bear with me for a second as I go on to explain this quickly. When I was writing my second book, I started here, July 25th, 2017. And when I started writing the book, this was the font of it. This is how big it was. And then, it got this small. And then eventually, it got this small.
Wow.
And then eventually, this is book 1, and this is book 2. It got this crazy small.
Wow. So it means, when you talk about small, so it means in your writing, you start writing with big characters, then you reduced it, reduce the font size, not as, like reduce the point of the font face, as it were, reducing it.
I wanted to fit everything
onto the page.
So, and I was able to finish the book on August 28th at 5:27 a.m.
Wow.
And it took me 35 days to finish this book. And the total length of the book now, and I'll show you the cover again, the total length of the book now is 120,000 words, approximately. And I'm just finishing reading it before, my goal is to finish reading it today because I have to get back to my designer to make sure that it's done. It has been a very long process, and it's been the hardest book I've ever written. It cost me over $12,000 to edit the book.
To edit, just editing?
Just editing. My editor is a professional editor. I didn't want to get just any person. I could have gotten, maybe $1,000. Maybe I could have paid somebody in university somewhere to edit the book for low cost. But I'm looking for the best possible quality. And the editor I'm working with is the same editor that did my first book, my second book, and now my third book. She understands my story. And the first book is about 50,000 words. Second book, about 50,000 words. Third book is 120,000 words. So, to answer your question, am I rich? Yes and no. Honestly, everything that I've done, the money that I earn, I reinvest back into my
Into the
business.
business. Yeah.
I have been up, I have been down.
Mm.
And to be honest, especially with this whole thing that's happening in the world, it is impacting my business inevitably, as it has everybody else.
Mm.
But am I successful by the grace of God? Yes, I
Yeah.
am.
Yep.
And I'll keep on pushing. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, yeah, being rich is one thing, but are you still servicing people? Are
Estimating
you
needs. Yeah.
still diligent in your work?
Mm.
So my thing is, don't just look at the results, whatever they may look like. Don't
Mm.
look at what people make you perceive,
Mm.
but look at the effort behind it. Draw inspiration from that,
From that.
and let that be the takeaway.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
hey,
Excellent.
at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing I would say to anybody is whatever it is you do, own as much of it as possible.
Mm.
And that's why, like I said, I always reinvest. You know, it cost me a lot to edit my book,
Mm.
but I worked sometimes 25 out of 30 days, sometimes 28 out of 30 days.
Mm.
You know, at the time, last year, for example, just to pay my editor
Mm.
because I knew that I wanted to own my product.
Your product. Yeah.
It's my book.
Mm. Mm.
And that itself will force me to care about it and do well with it.
Mm. Mm. Excellent.
And that's why, you know, by the grace of God, I've been able to find success.
Interesting. Interesting. Excellent. Now it's just so the point is that, and for all our previous who are guests on the show, is that for every one of them who have been successful either in their art, in music, or comedian who are comedians in the humor or whatever they are into, the fact that there's a process, and you have only just explained the process that you have gone through to be able to be where you are at, even though financially you might not have said, okay, you have a lot of money in the bank, but the point is that, hey, you have something that is adding value to the world, you know, adding value to the world. And let me ask, you mentioned that this particular thing is affecting your own business, you know, so how have you been able to surmount how have you been able to surmount the challenge of this present new normal in the world, to be able to bring your business to be up to speed, to still be able to, you know, float in this current new normal?
First, I also, like, if I may say, I want to acknowledge, you know, the Canadian government for everything that they're doing for small businesses and so on.
Yeah.
By, you know, investing in them as well. So I'm very fortunate to be one of those businesses that the government has invested in to
Okay.
help keep us afloat and to keep us going even more strongly.
Yeah.
And the second thing, I'm also really grateful for this time, and I'm fortunate that, you know, it has had so much impact. I believe that it has had a lot of positive as well.
Yeah.
Because I have been able to, you know, build a lot of infrastructure that my business never really had before. Especially having spent so much time in the offline world marketing my book, and in doing so becoming an expert of some degree to be able to do that. So much so that, you know, like, selling a book offline is not a problem for me, but I have been inevitably negating a lot of the online marketing.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, or should I say, I haven't been exercising I haven't been taking advantage, as far as the fact, the online market as I should have been before.
Yeah.
So with this current economic condition, it has allowed me the opportunity, especially the time, to be able to put every single thing that I need to be in place to be able to take full advantage of everything. Like,
Yeah.
To serve the online market. Mind you, my book is available on the ebook, so you can get it Kobo, Kindle, iBookstore.
Okay.
If you have any of those e-reading systems. And as you would notice, and I'll just want to diverge for a second, this is the cover of my first book. and this is the cover of my second book. And this is the first book again. This is the older one. So I've actually reproduced the first book.
Okay.
And the same thing with the second book. I've actually reproduced the second book. So
Okay.
there is a significant difference. And the third book, so that everything is in alignment. So it has allowed me the opportunity to rebrand my
To
brand.
scale up. Okay. All right.
Right, to bring things up to speed. And so to speak, as like, you know, I strongly believe that this whole COVID-19 situation is not going to last forever.
Yep.
And there will come a time, like every other time in history, there's always a dip. Even if it's an upward trend, it's always a dip. And I believe that it's like a wave. The dip is a wave for new opportunity to carry the next group of people to greater heights. And, you know, I'm very grateful for this time because it has allowed me the opportunity to position my business to be able to grow even more.
Yeah.
It's just a restart phase. I believe that's it. It's just a restart phase. It's hit a lot of people, including myself, hard. It's also a restart phase because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And what it's doing for my business is it's allowing me the opportunity to put into place
Okay.
things I never had in place before.
Okay. So this as the it first was a shock, but now it has helped you to put in place systems that both online and offline you are able to take be the best of both worlds. So people can see your book also online as well as those who you have met with one on one. And I think it's very very interesting that for those who are bought, those part of those 47,000 people, meeting them one on one, I think it gives you also we will say credibility, yeah, but more than just credibility, makes it more personal, if you like. You know, it makes it more personal. So you know, and each of them will tell you stories, which will continue to inspire you more and more.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why I feel very, 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 very fortunate to have been able to endure through. Like yesterday, for example, as I was reading my book. Sorry, I keep referring here, but
yeah, it's good.
I just want to show you guys that I'm actually not lying. This is my book. I am currently on page 490 of 524 or 472, and I'm just reading it, and I'm almost done reading it. And as I was reading the book yesterday, I had the thought, the spirit in me is like, drive over to this neighborhood that you used to knock on to sell your book. And after I dropped my mom to work yesterday, she works at the hospital downtown, I drove over to the neighborhood. And it was just so surreal being there. You know, like I knocked on a lot of doors, and just driving before I used to take the TTC, Toronto Transportation Commission, with books in my backpack, carrying my books, running door to door, people telling me yes or no, and I'll just be driving, and it's as though I can see the ghost of me going to door to door to door as I was driving, and witnessing and remembering, well, that door bought my book, well, that door told me to go away, that person said yes, but that person came running after me. So it's just, I guess in a way it was, I guess you could say it was the way that God was just saying, go back and see what I've done for you, and come back here and see where you are now.
Yeah.
And tell me that I don't have you still. You know, I don't have your back. Or because no matter, and here's one thing, you can win a Nobel Prize tomorrow, you will still have a level of doubt that what you're doing is not going to work.
Yeah.
It's just human.
Yeah, it's just human.
Like, I'm sure you have your PhD.
Yeah.
But I'm sure yesterday you were talking about writing a book. In my head, I'm like, I want to have my PhD. And I really have a PhD. So it's like, to me, I don't have a problem writing a book. But you have done your PhD. You can do it again if you want.
Yeah.
Someone else.
Yeah.
Because you know how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not a way you go. It's just believing that you can still keep going.
Can keep going. Yeah.
You can be successful, but the doubt will always be there. And in having gone door to door and having visited allowed me to really see where I came from.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are watching live and those who will still rewatch this, the point is that each and every one of us, just like we have our shadows, doubt often is no matter, like you already mentioned, even if you are going to win a Nobel Prize, you still have the doubt coming, like your shadow be with you. Is for you to doubt your doubt and take the action. Like somebody said, just do it, just go for it. Whatever it is that you thinking that is holding you back, actually is a figment, or is a figment of your own imagination. You created it actually, because you just have to press on and move for it. And it's very interesting that you mentioned earlier you've in parts, which is part of what I normally ask people. My research is on corporate social responsibility, what you have been involved with. And you mentioned earlier that your experience in is it World Mission and World
World Vision.
World Vision, okay. World Vision and Planet Canada.
Yeah,
Plan Canada.
Yeah.
Now, your involvement in those particular organization, instilled, as it were, that required doggedness to go from door to door, door to door, door to door, door to door. So in life, sometimes when we are involved in things, we don't know that actually we are learning what will help us in the future.
Exactly, I agree.
We don't know how that will help. And it was, I believe that experience you had with that time of working for those places helped you to say, well, if I could have raised money going from door to door saying, can you please help this particular charity? It gives you and showed you the possibility of being able to, let's do that for my own book. And that has helped you. So now, as an entrepreneur now, so what kind of charities are you involved with? What type of corporate social responsibility issues that are you tackling?
The biggest thing for me is hunger.
Hunger, okay.
It's a really big thing for me. I remember last year, and I'll never forget this. It was actually around this time. It was after Canada Day, July 1st. And I remember I had my editor, we started working on the book in January and going to mid of the year. It took about 6 months to finish editing the book. And even now, I'm still finding mistakes. So it's still editing because it's just perfectionist that I am. But I remember, whenever my editor would send me her bill, I would be so nervous to open the mail because I'm like, how much money do I have in the bank? Can I afford to pay her? And I remember I had other things that I just wanted to just pay off and just not have to deal with. Unfortunately, I overstressed myself and I went flat broke.
Wow.
And I kid you not, I remember, because I live by myself, I remember having overstressed myself, having put everything in my business. I barely had food in the house.
Interesting.
I had food, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it was just basics.
Basics, yeah.
The basics.
Oh, yeah. Just the basic, yeah.
It hit me hard, and I'm like, it hit me hard, and I'm like, wow, I don't have a lot of food in the house. And when working with a bookstore, they can take their time to pay you. And it was hard. And for some reason, they were just taking forever. And I had so much commitment that I had myself. Money was just coming in, and I was just taking it out, come in, go out, because so much other things I needed to pay for was just on the plate. So I overstressed myself. And I was just so lucky that, and I didn't want to have to bother anybody in any way, shape, or form. So in that moment, it hit me. I will never, in my power, let anybody go hungry. And that in itself sent me in that trajectory, of charity for, like food and
Okay.
so on.
Yeah.
But what I had started doing, and going forward, that's going to be my focus. Making sure people have like contributed to food banks and whatnot, and
Yeah.
I have been doing so. But aside from that, what I've been doing for years and inconsistent, I must say, is collecting clothing.
Okay.
I would have a clothing drive where people would just let me know that they have, and for example, it's an initiative that I had on Facebook a while ago, but I do indirectly. And I would tell people, hey, I'm looking to collect clothing for a charity, and people will just call me and let me know, hey, I have clothing, come and pick up. And we'll have a living room full of clothing that we'll be shipping. And yeah.
So do you ship it to Africa?
I had a charity that I was working with in Nigeria.
Okay.
And unfortunately, me and the person had a falling out.
Okay.
So, but I'm working with a lady that they work with a church in Hamilton.
Okay.
Hamilton is a place here in Ontario. So I work with her, and we still collect clothing for that.
Excellent. Now,
so in terms of, yeah.
So you're still part. So making sure people are not hungry anywhere in the world, and there's a need, particularly even where we came from in Africa, Nigeria, lot of hunger and things like that. Now, this question I'm asking, I should have asked in earlier, even though you might have touched on it, is for you as a person. Now, we have about 6 minutes or less than that. Instagram is about to time us out. I just don't like when I see that always time going. What would you define as creativity?
Being able to listen to the voice inside that's telling you, do it this way.
Okay.
Because when you do that and listen authentically, word for word, what the voice is telling you, it ends up being more beautiful than you can ever do it by yourself.
Okay, so that's creativity. Excellent. Now, for you, having been an author, now what, apart from getting the idea to write the book, part of the challenge of people is how would I be able to produce 50,000 words, continue writing? Where is the idea coming from? So how do you get the link, the continuity when you write the first line, the continuity? Where does that come from?
For me, again, I'm a God-fearing man. For me, it comes via prayer.
Okay.
Every time before I go to write my book, I always write notes to myself, and I'm just gonna
All right.
So whenever I go to write, whenever I go to anything for that matter, I always write stuff.
Okay.
This is just a collection of sentences, affirmation you can say. How you tell yourself before you go to bed, you always say, I'm an author.
Yeah.
And I'm a musician, I believe you said. So it's like, my way is, I just write my prayers on paper.
Okay.
And when I go to write, I just believe as though it was impossible to fail.
Yeah.
And I never aim anymore to focus on writing 50,000 words or writing this much. I just focus on the book. God, give me a story that when a reader reads it, they'll be inspired. And I just trust that whatever comes along from my spirit is what needs to be written. And lo and behold, I end up writing a lot more book. A book that is so longer than I thought. Don't go for length, go for quality. And that in itself is the biggest motivation for myself, and it has allowed me to tell the story the way the story wants to be told. So the key is to just let the story, like, we don't have a script to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Yet we've been talking for close to an hour.
Yeah.
So it's just, the key is to fall into a stream of, consciousness that would enable you to just record what the spirit tells you. That's it.
And just trust it.
Just trust it.
Excellent.
And edit later.
Excellent. So it's been wonderful, and thank you so much for your time. Myself, I'm inspired. I'm energized, and thank you so much because you've been able to unpack the fact that there's a process, and I want to believe also the time you spent as a Army cadet also taught you resilience, routine, which I think is a very often a challenging thing when it comes to doing anything in life. Just that having that doggedness of routine of being able to show up, as some will say, show up at the time required. So we want to thank you so much, and I believe with you that 100 million people will be inspired by yourself and by your story, and we appreciate you so much for what's your time with us today. And we know, perhaps, who knows, maybe you might come back again to tell us. But before you go, you mentioned that you will not, is your last book. I think I took you up on that. Why did you say, before Instagram times me up, I have just less than a minute? Why did you say is Ellie is your last book?
The Adventures of Ellie is my last book because I want to focus on building my business.
On something else.
It's time for me to. I've spent the first 10 years. I've spent my entire 20s as a novelist, and I want to continue to build my business around Tapestry House Publishing and my books.
Okay.
But it's time for me to pursue other business ventures.
Okay.
And that might change, but we'll see.
You
and
see.
I wanted to mention strugglesofadreamer.ca is the website you can actually get.
Yeah, strugglesofadreamer.ca. Yeah. 25 pages are available free of charge. Now, secondly, before I've got last, just in 5 seconds, how has it been? I know being a publishing house yourself, how has it helped you?
It has helped me to remain and maintain my own.
Instagram has timed me out. All right. Oh. Wow, it was a wonderful time.
Hello guys, my name is Ruth Onwura. I'm expecting a friend to come and join me on Zoom, and we're going to have a quick discussion, so stay tuned. Hello guys, my name is Ruth Onwura. I'm expecting a friend to come and join me on Zoom, and we're going to have a quick discussion.
Wow. Hello, Brian. Hello. Yeah, it's I've ended it. I didn't know. I didn't.